and much more, which I'm delighted about, John. Do you believe then that we are predestined to meet certain people in our life journey?
I do not take kindly to the word predestined. And let me explain why. Not because it's a bad word, but I would like to put it in context. Is the oak tree predestined to become, is the oak seed predestined to become an oak tree? The answer is yes and no. If it's planted, if it's nurtured, if it has its share of sun and rain and soil, it would evolve into what it has always been, a giant oak tree. However, if it's taken, put on a piece of rock and smashed with another rock, it although it had the potential to be an oak tree, that potential would have not come true. It would have been destroyed by the rock. So, although I do not think we are predestined for anything, we are like heat seeking missiles. We do follow after something of the soul. And our soul, which sees much more than we can see, if you want to call it the oversoul, like Jane Roberts did, or our inner selves or higher selves or whatever, doesn't matter. It has a larger picture of life than we do. And if we're tuned into that, we would find that there are certain people who would make our lives very interesting, and some of them who would make it absolutely hell. And we may choose to meet, like I did, the Elizabeth Kubler-Rosses of the world, and also we might choose some who would make my life sheer hell. And you might say, well, why would you be so silly as to choose that? Well, nobody could answer for anybody else, but I think it's because we find it interesting. It is because we find we need it for our own growth or soul growth. And so if we were to follow that discussion, we would come to the thought or the conclusion that maybe everything that happens to us wasn't predestined. Nothing was predestined. We chose at a certain level. And we did that precisely because we needed those experiences to get us to where we want to go. That's my short answer.
And thank you for that answer as well, John. So do you think that perhaps there are some people that we have made arrangements with, perhaps, before we came here to do something?
Absolutely. I think life is so wonderful, so beautiful, so horrible, so great, so frustrating, so every emotion you could think of, that we just could not have sprung up on this earth half a century ago for some of us, others a lot less than half a century. We just didn't spring up fully made. Totally, this is not the end-all and be-all of it. And the quantum physics, particle physics, and high-energy physics, our mathematicians and others are starting to say, for example, I read a wonderful thing that talked about an equation that leads to infinity, which is 10 to the 5,000 power, which I mean is a number beyond our conception. I think of other times being alternate times. Simple. We do it right now in our dreams. We go to sleep at night, hopefully, and we have dreams, whether we admit it or not, whether we remember them or not. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves in our boyhood town or village, or we find ourselves in a country far, far away, and we are double the age we are in the physical life that we're living. We've been doing all kinds of time travel there. We've been experimenting with time-space. No respectable scientist since the early 20th century would speak of time separate from space. So yes, it is my belief that we have lived before, maybe not in a before and after situation, but that we are currently, right now, as we talk, as I speak with you, I'm sitting in the third star of Orion, in the Orion system, or I'm sitting on a hill in Greece watching the sheep, or I am running through the jungles of Africa. And it is very possible that this is very similar to having a book with an infinite number of pages. Let's say page 1 to page 1 million plus 1 multiply by 10 and whatnot. And we are now, you and I are now speaking. We are on page 2007, whatever the line and paragraph and line are, but that all the previous pages exist and all the other pages which we haven't read yet exist. And we certainly can jump from one page to the other and go back in time or go back in pages or go forward into the future. If we do that and we skip a bunch of pages, the story may not make a lot of sense, but we are free to do that. So somewhere along the pages are the lines of time, and I use those words very loosely, lines of time. We have made arrangements with each other to meet with each other for our own growth and for helping each other along the way. And so we may have made agreements. Let's say a bunch of us were passing by in one of those agreements, and we took a look at planet Earth, and one said to the other, tell you what, John, why don't we stop by there and see what they're up to on Earth these days? Maybe we will be able to lend them a hand. And boom, you're born into Earth life, and immediately you forget, or after a little while you forget where you were, how you got there, and you start living Earth life. And like most of us, we start letting our lives live us, instead of remembering where we came from, remembering how safe we have been. And so we do make arrangements with each other to get together in a little group to help one another. I have no doubt in my mind that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Swamiji, who was Professor Rishian in my book, and Brad Steiger, Ruth Montgomery, many of us have agreed, Terry Marie, Vish have agreed to get together, make connection again, and do something that is so wonderful to help our other brothers and sisters as they too struggle up the mountain.